Hi, thanks for joining. I'm Dean Tarpley. I'm Industry Executive Director for Retail and Consumer Goods here at Oracle. Been in the retail space for a little over 40 years, and today we're going to talk about some of the current trends and what we're seeing here at Oracle. But before I get started, I'm going to let Adam introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. Adam Scott, I run the retail vertical here at Oracle, covering our cloud applications. And I've been at Oracle close to 16 years and been in retail for about 8 of those years. Really excited for the opportunity and look forward to speaking with everyone.
Thanks, Adam. So before we get started, just walk through what we're going to cover in this session. We should go about 45 minutes. We'll leave a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. We just did the introduction. So we'll start with trends in retail. Like I said, what we're seeing, Oracle, definitely has a point of view in this space, how we're positioned, and we'll talk a little bit about what that point of view is. Given the folks that are on the phone and the nature of this session, we'll spend a little bit more time on really the future of finance and how it's evolving in the retail industry. And then I'll turn it over to Adam, and he's going to talk about some of the momentum that we're seeing in this space. Before I get started, I want to give a nod to Accenture. We partner with a lot of different companies, and Accenture has their own point of view. So I'm going to be leveraging some of the content that they've created. But as we all know, there's just been massive acceleration of changes in the retail space. And everybody's always trying to think about, what comes next. Perpetuated a lot by, the pandemic, there's just been this massive adoption of omni-channel strategy. Some companies obviously we're on a journey already, but what happens is, when we hit the pandemic, a lot of those strategies just were pushed forward in time dramatically. And, things, like the rise of social commerce, and then when we look at what's happening in the retail space, and especially with, that convergence of omni-channel and how it's merging all the channels together, stores aren't going away, but the way that we're behaving and operating inside those stores is changing, and a lot of it is adapting to new technologies that's happening, and that convergence of the online world and the offline world. A lot in the area of these unexpected partnerships. So we see things like things you wouldn't have imagined a few years ago, where non-traditional retailers are partnering with retailers like Starbucks and Spotify, Walmart and BuzzFeed, Home Depot and Pinterest. These partnerships have a purpose, right? They're to appeal to the customer. They have an impact on both of the brands, and bringing those partnerships together has great outcomes for both companies. We also, we talk a lot about e-commerce, but the reality is that that word is almost becoming overused and outdated. And it's really all about m-commerce, which is, mobile commerce. I want to be able to get what I want, when I want it, no matter where I am, whether I'm at my home, in my car, in a store. And so, companies are leaning into that reality. And then we can't pick up a paper today and not realize what's happening in the workforce, right? With talent shortage, it's having a dramatic impact in all parts of retail, whether it's, in the supply chain. So when you see issues happening out on, getting product off of ships and into the stores, it's not just the lack of workforce and the ability to hire and staff up within the stores. It's a shortage, happening to be able to get, products off the boats, a shortage of drivers. And a lot of that's happening because of the impact that's happening in the supply chain. And I like to think of the analogy as, you have a 1,000 feet of water hose, and it had been turned on for a long time. water was flowing fine, and we know we have a global supply chain. But then, you go back a year and a half and somebody turned the water off. And, unfortunate, obviously, but then not only do we have to turn the water back on, and it takes a long time to get the water through that 1,000 feet of water hose, but we need more water because the demand has been pent up, and there's an explosion. And so we have a massive impact that's happening because not only are we not getting the water we need, but we're not getting enough of it, and it's not coming fast enough. So with that said, there's obviously these challenges that are happening today, but then, retail is not going to sit still. Retail moves very, very fast. And now we need to be thinking ahead in terms of, okay, where's it going next? And so, I say, retail is moving fast, but it's going to go even faster. It wasn't that long ago when I was, you're always wondering, how fast could you get groceries from a grocery store to someone's door? And then, it's daily delivery. And then, then we pick up a paper, a few months ago, or we read online that Amazon's going to come out with 2-hour delivery. Well, now they're talking about delivery in 10 minutes, and that's the speed of what, how things are changing. And every retailer has to be responsive to this. Things around security and payment, like, where we're going with, touchless payment is now, they're already starting to roll out, iPay, where, optical retinal scanners will be able to, not only process payments quickly, but then obviously there's a lot of security. And then if any of you were watching the news last night and last week, when Facebook changed their name to Meta, if you don't see, if you don't believe in what's happening there, and the fact that they're investing $10 billion, not just over the next 12 months, but they envision investing $10 billion a year for the next 5 to 10 years. They know where the world and the convergence of commerce, as well as social and social media is kind of coming together. And as much as we, are seeing Facebook, and we may not like a lot about the company, the reality is they see where everything's heading, and you cannot discount the fact that they have 3 billion active users, and they see a world where it's not just going to change the way we behave in the metaverse around augmented reality and having the ability to go into this digital world, but they also recognize that there's a huge amount of customers to be had. And so the whole world of social commerce, bringing that all together, I believe, they're going to be a first mover there, and they certainly have the scale as well as the investment ability to invest in that. And then that leads me to the last one, which is, around cryptocurrency and digital, digital currencies. And so to me, those are almost tightly coupled, because in a world where we have a global consumer base, and Facebook is always, the news is that not just around the metaverse, but also how they're looking to bring in, digital payment and cryptocurrency into that. And they're looking for partners all along the way. So, yes, retail is moving fast, but again, it's going to move even faster. When, the one thing about retail, and it hasn't changed, and it's not going to change, is that it's all about the customer. The amount of emphasis that a retailer puts on that customer and that customer experience has definitely changed. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a customer, you don't have retail, right? And so it's all about the value chain, and every step of that value chain impacts that customer experience. The plan, the make, the buy and the make, the move, the market, the sell, and the service. And each and every one of these has key processes that live within them, and trends that we'll go through in just a second. But we all know that, in retail, it all starts with the plan, and again, when we sit back and we think of what is that strategic and long range plan, it's all about being able to, be forward looking, and then decompose that down to how we're going to fund a key initiatives into that given year. And there's an operating side of that plan. There's obviously a merchandising side of that plan. It feeds into the what we're going to buy and or make, where we're going to source it. Again, all kinds of trends happening in this. Who are my suppliers? How am I going to manage that inventory? What products am I going to get into and out of, whether they're seasonal products or they're core to my merchandise strategy. Packaging, a lot of emphasis around sustainability and packaging. And then, as a lot of retailers are pivoting to private label goods, manufacturing becomes more and more important. And we talked earlier about, the impact of the supply chain, not just in the ability to manufacture and make and get product, get our suppliers to make the product that we need to have on our shelves or on our website and be able to get to the customer. How are we going to move that product through the supply chain? And then, it goes two ways. We have to have not just getting it to the shelves, but sometimes getting it back in that reverse logistics. And then the market, what are we going to sell? What are we going to, promote? What are we going to charge? And it's all around managing the brand and the perception of the customer. And then we get into the, the selling aspect. Are we going to, focus on the stores? Are we putting a heavier focus on our e-commerce or direct to consumer? Is, the e-marketplace and the evolution of social commerce, et cetera. We talked a little bit about payment processing and how that's evolving. And then ultimately, the customer buys that product. And if they have a great experience, that's wonderful. But a lot of it is, we're not done once we sell it. We still have to service the customer, whether it's, leaning into that customer and having things like subscription services where they keep repeating, the business with us, or whether we have loyalty programs, or it's as simple as, they had a bad experience and how can we make sure to right that experience quickly? Because if we do all that and we do it really well, that becomes a circular process to where the customer will continue to do business with us, and we maximize that customer lifetime value. Each and every one of these, we're seeing trends. And here at Oracle, the great news about us and the way our company is built and where we're making investments is we're building out our products to align with that entire value chain, both in the front office and the back office. So we're seeing a lot around, you hear the word connected planning, intelligent performance management. It's beyond just finance. It's continuous, it's driver-based. It's the integration of all my key plans, my merchandise plan, my operating plan, my financial plan, et cetera. And then there's the connection, the tight connection with, if we're making the right decisions, especially on the merchandise planning side, what are those key trends that are happening on whether I'm buying the product straight from my manufacturer or whether I'm making it myself. There's a host of trends that are happening, and it's not just what's happening within our company, but we look back out to our suppliers, and we recognize that they have to have a lot of the same values that we have, especially things around sustainability and ethical sourcing, et cetera, et cetera. But everyone is dealing with the issues that I just spoke of, like the labor shortage. It's not just happening within my company, as a retailer, but it's also impacting my suppliers and the entire supply chain. We're also dealing with across virtually everything that we're talking about, and a lot of the key news that's out there is around inflation and rising prices. And obviously that has a huge impact on consumers and how they behave and what they're buying. And then ultimately, we need to move that product through the supply chain. And what's changing there is it's all about needing to get the product closer to the customer. And you know, in the old days of just sending an order to China, waiting 12 months and hoping, you know, that it sells when it shows up on the ship and ultimately onto the rack, you know, the speed of which retail changes necessitates me to have different models, different, you know, delivery models to my customer, but also how I ultimately need to be able to get that product onto my shelf to my customer, et cetera. And so, you know, whether it's, you know, using my stores as fulfillment centers, changing the way that I automate my warehouses, that I'm putting in capabilities within my stores for fulfillment. There's just a massive amount of innovation that's happening that's impacting the end-to-end process that I need to go through to get the right product to the right place at the right time. And again, you know, when gas prices are going up, it's having a big impact on the cost of moving that product. And then ultimately, you know, how am I connecting and marketing that to the consumer? It's all about personalization. You know, again, understanding not only what the customer wants, but a lot of times thinking for the customer and already predicting and knowing what the customer is going to want before they even know they want it. There's a lot of very sophisticated technology that needs to be in play to be able to do that. And what you see in every single one of these is not only are there trends happening, but we're innovating in a host of different application areas, whether it's our ERP suite of applications, whether it's our planning and forecasting applications, our human capital management, our supply chain management, our customer experience. We have a retail global business unit. All of us are working together to make sure that we're not only responding to the trends, but we're building the most innovative suite of applications that work together. And that's really the key message here, because again, as we go through one process to the next in the value chain, these are all interdependent, because again, the goal is my customer wants it anytime, anywhere, any way they want it. They expect to have great experiences, whether it's online, in my home, on my phone, in the store. I want it to be frictionless. I want to be able to leverage multiple different ways that I want to interact with the brand and ultimately get the product that I'm looking for. But again, we're seeing a lot of the same trends that are happening in each of these. And ultimately, that impacts the customer experience. If I walk into a store and I reach up on the shelf and I don't get the product that I want, it's not in, or it's not, or the price is going above a level of which I'm willing to pay, I sometimes can, you know, it's easy to blame the retailer, even though there may be more macro trends that are happening. But retailers are always looking at and trying to understand, what are the experiences? How do my customers, you know, what are their values, and how can I appeal to those values? And then how can I make, you know, the shopping, you know, process more convenient, more personalized, and then ultimately, you know, when they do engage with me, how am I ensuring that I'm providing superior customer service? And if I do things really well, then ultimately they'll shop with me for life. I won't lose them as a customer. And so, as we all know as retailers, this looks simple on paper, but it's very, very difficult to execute at times. The key is recognizing that there's a host of different technology solutions behind the scenes that make all this happen. And a lot of our competitors here at Oracle, they may focus on one given area. So you might have one company that really specializes in human capital management or embed budgeting, planning, and forecasting. But the reality is, and the picture I'm trying to paint is, where companies are going is they recognize it's integrated and it needs to be integrated. And so we believe here at Oracle that the best way to accomplish that is by having a technology suite of applications, whether it's front office, back office, It's end to end, because that data becomes pervasive, the business processes become pervasive, and because we're able to do everything, sort of as a whole and not looking things very siloed, we can get a lot of benefits that we provide to our customers and our retail clients. So switching gears, that's sort of at a high level, the way we see retail and what's happening, and what's happening not only today, but what we think is going to be happening in the future. But more specifically, what's happening in the the back office, the role of finance, the role of the CFO, and what is the future of finance in retail. And I spent a large part of my career, is I used to call it a spreadsheet jockey, back in the 90s, where I spent 90% of my time gathering data, putting together reports, very little time that I was able to spend doing, value-added activities like analytics or, predicting what was going to happen. And we know that that's been changing over time, but it still amazes me to this day how much basic blocking and tackling is happening. But what we're seeing, and I think what Adam will talk to here shortly, which is, what are those retail companies doing? Why are they going through these major, finance transformation initiatives? And it's really all about moving from, finance is just a scorekeeper or a custodian or a commentator, but becoming that true business partner to all parts of the business. And the way that the real reason behind a lot of the improvements that in the initiatives that are happening is twofold. Number one, I need to reduce the cost of finance, but also by reducing the cost, and I also want it to become a value add to my organization, help me become more strategic as an organization. Some of the best minds are living in the finance group, and they understand a lot about what it takes, to fund initiatives and what those initiatives should be. And so it's all around, not just reducing the cost of finance, but also elevating finances again to become that true business partner. And another way to look at it is, finance of yesterday, finance of today, and what will finance be tomorrow? Again, just thinking of it in simple terms, it's that, economic guardian, of yesterday, just protecting the financial, checkbook of the company was really a key thing that they were focused on, and it was their primary purpose for being. Well, now it's sort of moving into really helping architect, a business value for the enterprise, and it's expanding the capability for, finance for the enterprise as a partner. So today we're seeing a lot more going from just being basically a bookkeeper to really helping and working closely with operations, moving from just, statutory reporting to descriptive performance and analytics. It's less about process and more about structure, and it's less about just being a functional area within the company and really becoming part of the fabric of the enterprise. And then moving out of just finance, but also focusing also into the operational side and having an impact and where it's going. And so the investment these companies are making is it's how do we move the needle, to growth and value, creating insights for the new business and realizing the value that's happening as these companies are moving to this new digital world. So it's a catalyst of the digital strategy. Things like predictive analytics, becoming more strategic, not just focusing inward to the company, but looking externally and helping guide the company to not only, again, not just knowing where we are today, but where we need to be. It's that internal and external, value that they're adding to the retailer. So another way to look at this is you had traditional finance, and there's a lot of activities and progress that's been happening around, it's that age-old story of people, process, data, technology. And again, just like we saw what's happening in retail being perpetuated by COVID and what happened with the pandemic, a lot of this evolution and what's happening at lightning speed even in the back office and in the role of finance is happening because it was sort of being forced by COVID. So, the things as simple as, working from home and the need to be able to have the old days of having AS400 programs where I had green screens doing data entry just don't work today. I have to be able to support a workforce that works anywhere. I need to automate redundant tasks. I want to be less reliant on human, manual processes. So things like robotics, predictive analytics, intelligent automation, end to end, and then you hear these buzzwords around artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's a real thing, but again, it was always going to happen, but now it's happening at an even faster pace. A lot of that being brought on by the pandemic. So lastly, before I turn it over to Adam to talk a little bit about what we're seeing with our client base in the retail space, just leave you with kind of three main themes, as it relates to finance and the evolution of finance. It's all around efficiency, performance, and value. And efficiency, you hear a lot about, we're moving to a world of touchless finance. So, and that requires, transactional robotics and machine learning, the elimination of those manual processes. And to do that, appropriately, we necessarily have to we have to digitize the back office. And then from a performance perspective, it's all about harnessing the power of data for real-time decision-making. Again, no longer just waiting to get those reports and looking in the rearview mirror, but how do I become, leverage data and harness that data and the power of the data and see it as an asset and be able to help drive, real-time, business decision-making, and also anticipate. Again, help the company be able to see around corners. To do that, we have to be digital. We have to leverage data as an asset. And then if we're doing it and we do it well in the back office and as a finance organization, we become that trusted business partner, where we're being seen as someone that can bring new business strategies to the organization. And so we can provide those real-time intelligent insights, and we can accelerate integration of everything that's happening, whether we're acquiring companies and integrating into the company, acquiring brands, or whether we're acquiring new technologies and integrating. Because ultimately, integration and bringing in and acquiring anything is done for the sole purpose of capturing some sort of value. And so finance is helping not only create that value, but help bring that value forward more quickly and bring more value. And then ultimately, leveraging the finance talent. So again, I got my degree in finance, but again, when I was just sitting there, being a spreadsheet jockey, I didn't feel like I was unleashing my talent. And where we are today is because when we digitize the back office, we can unleash the talent that exists within our finance organization. And it helps evolve the organization. So a lot of this really relies on transforming that operating model, call it the intelligent back office. And it's for the sole purpose to drive continuous improvement. And we do that through innovation. And so, this is a lead into a couple of other sessions that are going to follow this. So, I know the next session is going to be talking about the war for talent in retail. We've got a session on supply chain. They'll do a little more deep dive into each of those sort of critical things that are impacting retailers today. But this is meant to just sort of set it at a high level. What's happening in the industry? What do we at Oracle see happening? How are we helping our clients? And then ultimately, what are our clients doing? And so with that said, I want to turn it over to Adam Scott, and he's just going to talk a little bit about, just some, be a credible witness, because he's at the forefront of working with our customers to make these big investments. And I think it'll be helpful to hear what's happening out in the retail marketplace regarding these transformations. So Adam, I'll turn it over to you.
Dean, thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity, and I'll definitely pick off where you left off. I mean, so I run North America, which includes Canada, and across that we're working with every retailer, and it's very consistent with what we're seeing. We're seeing the finance group come to the forefront, really driving a lot of the digitization and really transforming that intelligent back end. There's no doubt that what we've gone through in the last 2 years with the pandemic has accelerated that. But as we work with these customers, we're seeing more demand, more need to get involved from a finance organization. And sometimes that starts with, products that we've been involved in for a while, which is Hyperion and EPM, and then core ERP in the financial back office. Really excited to report that I think Oracle is leading the charge in many of those areas, working with many retailers. And I think our approach, much like Dean outlined, how we're looking at retail and how we're diving into the process, we're working very closely with our counterparts in Oracle, along with other partners, to really bring a full perspective across retail. We're relying on our partners out there for the industry knowledge, and we're bringing some of the products to support this rapidly changing area in retail. And we're excited about that because we've got areas that we feel can help in all areas of retail, whether it's kind of the planning, the buy, make, moving and shipping, the delivery, and then even the service in the back end. So I know a lot of those were highlighted, but it's extremely exciting for us to be involved, and we feel we're making significant impact with those retailers. So to give you some key examples, we at Oracle have kind of not only broken retail into its own vertical, we've even gone a step further and even looked at different micro verticals within retail, just so we can bring further value to our customers, right? So you take like the grocery space, we've been working close with Albertsons, Kroger, Giant Eagle, Bash's, and then even into some of the CPG firms like Hormel, some of the convenient stores like Casey's, 7-Eleven. We're driving a lot of those fundamental financial changes and transformation. And many of these customers recently have gone live and seeing significant value with the Oracle solutions. We've looked at kind of the restaurant QSR space, made a lot of headway with McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Wendy's, some of the Inspire brands, which is Arby's, BW3s, et cetera. Done a lot with Chipotle, Yum Brands, and all these customers are starting at a different phase, right? Some are coming in from a financial planning aspect and starting with an EPM solution. Others are looking at the core, and some of these are combining merchandising and our core ERP and doing a full transformation from basically the merchandise solutions all the way to that back office and the financial piece. So really exciting to be part of that. We're seeing significant movement in that area and really excited for the opportunity. We've also looked at specialty retailers, done a lot of work recently with Bed Bath & Beyond, Williams-Sonoma, AutoZone, Office Depot, Chewy, and Kohl's as we get into some of the big box retailers as well. And even some of the discount retailers that we're working with as well, with Five Below and Bell's. It's exciting for us to look at all these verticals, break that down, and really build into the process how we can help. And really make an impact on the back office, along with other areas that Dean earlier described. So one of the exciting things too for us is the lead that finance is taking, right? They're taking a more aggressive approach, being part, aligning close with the business, and being a true leader in this digitization as we look to make an impact. And more than ever, maybe by what's resulted of the pandemic is financial planning, understanding what's coming, understanding how to adjust to what could be coming down the future, and using different delivery models that Dean brought up, right? We've all had to shift on how we interact, how we potentially buy or get product as we look at the omni-channel and how everyone's taken a different approach there. The digitization is real, and I think the impact that we're making in the back office is significant. And we're excited to partner in that area. And I think what's also driving this is the, basically the business cases and the value these customers are getting. I mean, it's kind of tremendous. We've been able to take some of these customers from legacy systems and sometimes in short as 6, 9, 10 months move and truly digitize their back office, right? That wasn't really possible back in the on-prem days. We've made significant strides working with our partner community and really bringing strong innovation to this area. And what it's allowed us to do with a truly cloud-enabled product is every quarter we're delivering enhanced, new features. The innovation cycle is much shorter. So we're making strong impact to our customers and delivering value every 90 days, which is just so much faster than we were able to in the past. And like Dean mentioned, whether it's retail or any industry, nothing's slowing down. It's all speeding up. And we're excited to be part of that process, excited to work with our customers on that journey. And, with many of the examples I shared with you there's many others that we're talking to that have gone live, and we've successfully delivered the business value. And the best part for us is it doesn't really stop there. The innovation continues. We continue to work with these customers on whether it's new areas outside of finance, potentially supply chain or other edge areas. But, really it's about continuing to enhance that process, deliver the innovation, work with the customer so we all can continue to excel in this fast-paced environment. So really appreciate the opportunity to share what's going on, at least what Oracle's seeing in the market. We look forward to working with many of you and following up with many of you. And Dean, if that's good, let's leave some time for questions here.
Yeah, and I think we've got plenty of time for questions, but I'll throw the first question out and put you on the spot. So, I remember back in 2008, 2009, I was actually in consulting working with retail companies when, we went through the Great Recession. And it was amazing how retailers just stopped spending, right? They when a big horrible event like that happens, at least then they stopped spending, and that happened, a few different events over history. So when the pandemic happened, and I remember, where I was when we knew this was going to be big and it was going to be ugly. Obviously, I was fearful because I'd seen, I felt like I'd read this book before, and I just thought we were all, we're going to go to a world of, layoffs and all things because retailers wouldn't be spending money. And but actually, the opposite seemed to have happened, and retailers just seemed like they upped their investment and they went all in a very, very scary time. And I guess I have my own opinions, but number one, do you agree with that? And then number two, what do you think was the reason that retailers, even when something so big and traumatic was happening, why did they, pivot and decide to invest instead of holding firm and trying to, just immediately turn to cut costs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very fair question, and what's I think different here is the demand. Really was just paused. I think a lot of the demand through the pandemic was still there. I know there was a little uncertainty, but a lot of people realized it just had to shift how we were going to potentially manage and run the business, along with work with our customers, right? So I think the prior world, we thought digitation, the idea of digital and pushing everything to be digital was really here. But, I think what we quickly realized at the beginning of the pandemic is it wasn't, right? There were a lot of manual processes. There were a lot of things that we relied on in different areas that weren't heavily digitized. And we started seeing a need to transform, and it really accelerated the desire and kind of the momentum in the system already. And so when we were given the opportunity to do it, we realized that the customers are definitely there. They just need to be reached differently. And as we take the back office, take other areas of the business and move them toward digital, it's enabled us to give the customer a new experience. And I think quickly retailers realized there's even more opportunity. And many of these, like you take Chipotle, their digital, digital orders and digital business was like 15, 20%. I mean, it was low prior to the pandemic. I mean, now that revenue is 60, 70%. And then you'd think you open stores and that may reduce, right? Well, it reduced a little, but I think you're still seeing, okay, let's say 70% we're doing digital orders. Now that the stores are open, it's only dropped to 60, where before it was a much smaller percentage. So I think what these other options are giving these customers are, it's a different way for the retailer to interact with the customer. And many of them are seeing more business out of it because there's more opportunities to engage with that customer to drive that sale. And you're starting to see that, right? They were able to adopt a different model when they didn't have the traditional storefront. And then as the storefronts came back, many of the options we were using prior have only accelerated. So it's a pretty exciting time for retail.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that. I remember back, if we think about Amazon and, one day they were just, we thought of them as selling books, and, look what they've become. And even through, the Great Recession, they were investing and growing. And I think they took an opportunity through a lot of, that 3 to 4 years of recessionary time, to grow, to capture market share. And now I look forward to, again, what comes next in retail. No retailer can sit back and just wait to see, what's going to happen in an environment where even if something bad like a pandemic happens, they have to keep moving forward, because you have companies, again, like a Facebook or something that we don't even think is a competitor today. We could look 5, 10 years in the future and realize if we don't always stay abreast and invest and stay ahead of the curve, we're basically just going to give up massive amounts of market share and let them take the lead role. So, and the only other thing about the pandemic is also, I think, what was different is, the consumer still had money to spend and they had a desire to spend. They were just stuck at home. Back in 2008, 2009, 2010, the consumer really was struggling to be able to spend money. And there's a host of reasons. That was, we did a lot of stimulus. A lot of people didn't lose their jobs. We're still making good money, but they had more disposable income because a lot of their cost had gone away because they couldn't go off on fancy vacations or even, investing in commuting and those things. So the world has changed, but I've been real impressed to see how retail as an industry has pivoted and really responded in an amazing way. And it's been fun to watch, fun to be a part of. And I'm just excited to see what the next 10, 15, 20 years has in store for us, both in terms of retail as well here at Oracle. So with that said, I'll welcome any questions that might be out there, and we'll take questions. And if not, we'll thank you for your attendance.
Yeah, great.
Robin,
So if you guys have any questions for Dean or Adam, please just enter them in the Q&A bar at the bottom of the Zoom control panel. Well, it doesn't look like any questions are coming in. So thank you both for that very informative overview on some of the current trends in retail and how so many key players in the industry are utilizing EPM solutions in both their financial reporting and back office processes. So really appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of share some of the insights happening in the industry today.
thanks, Robin. Thanks for having us. And thank you, everyone. And have a great week.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the
I'll see your
opportunity.
station. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.